Kenneth Walker and Travis Etienne find new homes and exciting offenses. We hit on the fantasy impact of all the free agent running back signings on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcasting network. I am one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst for the NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL, fantasy, and betting for sportingnews.com.
We've had a lot of unofficial signings in free agency on the first day of the legal tampering period and of this morning as well on Tuesday. Now, these signings don't become official until Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, but most of the time it's pretty set in stone here with what we are told. But lots of running back movement that we're going to get to on today's episode. Then our next episode, we'll get to the receivers that moved and quarterbacks. Now let's start with, this was pretty immediate on Monday morning or Monday afternoon. Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs. He officially leaves the Seahawks. It's a 3-year, $43 million deal, over $14 million per year. People are very, very excited. Last year, he finished as a running back 29 and average fantasy scoring in half PPR. He was already had a cost of running back 15 before the signing to the Chiefs. So I think he's even going to fly up boards more. Is he going to be worth his cost, Vinny? Do you think he has top 10, top 5 upside with the Chiefs?
Yeah, we'll have to see what else they do here. It's not done. It's the first day of the offseason, not even so, because the official league year starts on Wednesday. So we haven't even got through the one day here. And interesting, Isaiah Pacheco's already found a new home. That was a news that we got before we recorded the show, so that we'll break that down a little bit later. But he's with the Lions, so he's not returning. So we know Kareem Hunt is a free agent as well. So we'll see what they do with him. The one thing I'm a little bit concerned about that I want to pause on Kenneth Walker having a big workload is what we saw with the Seahawks. And before Zach Charbonnet went down, I think they were very careful with his usage because he's not the most dynamic pass catcher. This has kind of been a head scratcher for me. When you look at Andy Reid, like in Philadelphia, it was about Brian Westbrook and these dudes that could catch the ball. And he even had Jamal Charles early in his tenure here in Kansas City. And then we even had a Damian Williams be a factor in Kareem Hunt in his early days. But of late, that hasn't been the case. Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a big-time receiver in college, and they didn't really manifest that to be his role. Maybe it's just the Patrick Mahomes kind of mentality, like throw downfield, don't check down, extend plays, have Travis Kelce for those shorter passes. So maybe that's also coming to play. They do want to go away a little bit from the RPO looks and all the things they've been doing before, and that little subtle shift from getting Eric Bieniemy in there and Matt Nagy out. Andy Reid is still going to be calling the plays, but that's a little bit of a tweak here. And Ken Walker, I think if you look at it, his running style very similar to Eric Bieniemy as a player. And I think they're going to be more power run oriented. They have to realize that's their strength. They can't drop back here with Patrick Mahomes. So I think the thing the Chiefs are going to do, Michelle, and be smart about is they're going to tailor their offense to who they get. So Walker, not strong necessarily being a pass catcher, but they'll use him in those power situations where he can be successful running behind Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith and really getting those yards that are available there between the tackles and giving him a lot of volume to do that. Now, he's definitely an upgrade over Pacheco. He's sleeker. He can burst up the middle. Now, it remains to be seen, will they give him that 20-touch threshold? It's hard to just say, lock that in. At the current moment, you would say, yes, he's in for a workhorse role. And then you follow the money. The money also says how much they paid him. They're looking to give him those 20 touches. So right now, everything is great. And the cost of RB15 is very nice at this point. You should creep into the top 12 and be an RB1. So again, you take the value as you get it. But just keep in mind Walker's limitations, and they're not necessarily done adding backs here. Or they could also just sit on knowing that they have Rashard Smith, and he can handle some of that change of pace role, catch passes if they need to. Then they don't do anything, and then they say goodbye to Pacheco and Hunt. Then you're in business here with Walker. So let's see what happens. But you would think the money, the role, his finish to the season, what the Chiefs need, what the Chiefs are shifting to, all these things should point to Walker being a focal point of their offense.
Yeah, he definitely should be a focal point. I do think he'll get overhyped due to the playoff performance that he had and the Super Bowl MVP
For
and then
sure,
going to
yeah.
the Chiefs, right? So it depends on how high he keeps going up because, like, once if you're deciding between him and Saquon Barkley and him and Chase Brown, him and Josh Jacobs, he and Bucky Irving, fine. Like, if you want to choose Walker over those guys, I think you can definitely come up with a reason. But once you get to the James Cook and Asthon Jeanty and Marion Hampton, like, I'm going with those guys. I just think they have Walker is a big play guy, but he has a lot of bad plays in there as well. And we've seen now, a Chiefs running back has not scored more than 13 points per game since 2018 in Kareem Hunt's first season there. So I think Kenneth Walker will be good. He'll be a good upgrade. But it's all going to come down to his cost for me. Now, we'll have to see who the Seahawks starting running back is in 2026. Is Zach Charbonnet ready to go? Tore his ACL there in the playoffs. So we don't actually know who will be starting for them in week 1. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Now, Travis Etienne also gets a big contract, $13 million a year, 4-year, $52 million deal with the Saints. And the Saints offense is looking exciting going into next year, right? Like last year at this time, we're like, oh gosh, but Tyler Shook looks better than anyone was expecting. You got Kellen Moore coming into his second year there. Chris Olave is looking good, right? So it all comes down to, do they trade or cut Alvin Kamara for our excitement with ETN? Because I do think Kamara is pretty much at the end of his rope in his career. But if Kamara is still there, then they're just going to be eating into each other, and they're very similar players.
Yeah, they're similar players, but I see a changing of the guard happening here. I think the Saints are becoming a little younger. Kellen Moore is now taking over the offense. He had 1 year of Kamara, and everyone could see that Kamara was slowing down. It's the end here, and I would expect they're going to try to do something Kamara. I don't know if it's going to be a June 1st cut. Something's going to happen here where they invested heavily. This is a team that had a lot of needs that were beyond running back at this point, like trying to get a second receiver, trying to get some defensive help. There's a lot of things that the Saints needed to do this offseason. So if they make a move like this, you would think it's with the mind of Etienne being a big part of their offense next year. And with Kellen Moore, that's the MO, right? Where did we have that big year with Saquon Barkley? It was with Moore getting all of the touches. And we've seen that even Dallas with those receivers and running backs, right? They like to go to one guy quite a bit here. So I do like Etienne as maybe giving a little bit more upside than Walker. I need to wait and see. I think in the current situation, you would say Walker is the better fantasy value and pick in that 12 to 18 range, right? Basically, the high or bottom end RB1s, high end RB2s. That's what we're looking for at the range. Now, if Kamara goes, then Etienne's stock is going to really raise here. So let's watch for that, because I think he has more upside because he's an explosive guy. We know he can get to the 12 touchdowns. We know he actually might be a little bit more durable. He's had his injury issues as well, but we know that Walker somehow was healthy down the stretch, but he was very frustrated with injuries in the previous season. So I think Etienne's a little bit more durable. I think they'll expand and use him more as a pass catcher. I think he's ideal for playing in the Superdome right there. And what they want to do, get in the open field, make those big runs. So they're going to give every opportunity for him to have a big role. It's just going to be odd to have Kamara on the team and just be like a change of pace backup guy. I don't see him also accepting that. So he might have mentioned something to him. And I also think they were rather aggressive, right? They came out. The Chiefs were quick on Walker, but the Saints were pretty quick on Etienne too. Like, I didn't expect that. So that says that maybe they already know something about Kamara and they need to move on. So that's really good stuff here. So he could be special. He could be Kamara part 2. He's that good of a receiver. He's that good of a scorer. The Saints offense is on the uptick with Tyler Shough. They made another big acquisition in David Edwards, the guard from the Bills. He's a very good run blocker, so they should be better up front. So I'm excited about what Etienne can do with the Saints. Again, a little bit higher ceiling, but the floor right now belongs to Walker.
Yeah, I mean, with Etienne, he was such the better fantasy player in most of his seasons in the NFL over Walker. Was the running back 13 on average this past year. Like I mentioned, Walker was a running back 29. So I like both of these landing spots. They should get a lot of work as long as Kamara's gone. And it'll be interesting to see who the Jaguars and Seahawks fill in for these guys. Now, there's a wide open spot, especially for the Jaguars, unless they're all in on Bashal Tutin, which we'll have to keep an eye on, but maybe some rookies could end up in these two spots with the Jaguars and Seahawks. We will get to the rest of the running back movement here in free agency right after a quick break.
All right, this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by Indeed sponsored jobs. And look, this is prime time for hiring. It's spring. We want to get our workforce going. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox is overflowing, and the one position you are needing to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure is on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Do it right now. Spend more time actually interviewing candidates who check those boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. And when you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of Locked On Fantasy Football will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support Locked On Fantasy Football, saying you heard about it on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, we will continue talking about running backs and the free agent reactions we have for fantasy football. But before we do that, it is free agency. It's an exciting time of year, and we're here to bring you the top analysis you need to know here for your fantasy football advanced scouting in 2026. And we're going to be here all year long here to help you dominate your fantasy leagues. Get 1 month free of the Everyday Club with code FREEAGENCY, no spaces, now through March 15th. Go ad-free and keep the conversation going on Discord. Join the club. It's easy to do that for Locked On Fantasy Football. You just go to lockedonfantasyfootball.supercast.com. Support us. Get special Discord access, a lot more straight line to us to help you dominate in fantasy football this season. Okay, Michelle, time to continue the show. And we did have some other running back news. I know that Walker and Etienne dominated. We're still waiting on Rachaad White as of this recording. That's a notable name. But this is something that's really great for an existing running back. Tyler Linderbaum was up there as one of the top free agents overall. We thought he might go to the Giants. We thought he might go to the Chargers. He ends up with the Raiders. And this is great for Asthon Jeanty. The Raiders spent some money, folks. I mean, they really made some things. Linebackers, they got two really good linebackers there. Nakobe Dean leading that list here. So I look at the Raiders. They did spend money. Linderbaum gives them a solid center. They've been weak in the middle. Now if they get Colton Miller back, now you're in business maybe to have a really good offensive line in front of Fernando Mendoza. But more importantly, Michelle, Asthon Jeanty should be very thrilled about this signing.
I mean, there's been a lot of positives for Asthon Jeanty throughout this offseason, right? Gets new coaches that we're excited for, especially with Clint Kubiak being now, that mastermind play caller that we think he is. And I mean, it's not just the Tyler Linderbaum signing, which, yeah, they may have overpaid, but we don't care about that when it comes to Asthon Jeanty and fantasy, right? Like, we just want him to get upgrades. But it's also the Colton Miller coming back from injury. Like, that's a all-pro left tackle right there. Jackson Powers-Johnson coming back at right guard. He missed a handful of games last season as well. Get these guys healthy. You have a couple more holes maybe to fill up here, but it makes it a lot more doable in the draft, or maybe they still have a lot of money to spend in free agency if they want to. So yeah, Asthon Jeanty is looking on the up and up. If he can't do it this year, like, I think we have to start getting worried. Kind of like Marvin Harrison Jr., right? We're ready to give him that second year. to see, and then he didn't do it again with a couple different quarterbacks and whatever. So it's hard to trust him. But with Asthon Jeanty, I'm still going to give him that second year of full-on trust. Now, other running back news, we got Tyler Allgeier to the Cardinals, but the Cardinals also restructured James Conner's contract to keep him for 2026. So it looks like their new backfield will be James Conner, Tyler Allgeier, and they still have Trey Benson, which apparently is never going to be a thing. But between Conner, who's aging here and has a lot of injuries, and Allgeier, do you think both are going to be like 50-50? Do you think one will have much more of, the lead back? Conner's definitely the better pass catcher, but both are really good around the goal line. So it'll be interesting to see where their roles come to play.
Yeah, when they signed Tyler Allgeier, I thought it was going to be better because they also upgraded their offensive line, but then they said James Conner's coming back, Trey Benson's still hanging around. I'm not quite sure what they're doing at quarterback either, with now Gardner Minshew signed. So I guess it's Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew. Kyler Murray's not been quite released. So the Cardinals are a bit of a mess. I need to still wait and see, figure this out. But the one thing I do know, Michelle, it's really good for Bijan Robinson no longer to have Allgeier there because he was cutting into a lot of his key workload. This is Bijan, who still was very highly productive. So he could really now shoot up to that one spot, as we debated that a few shows ago.
Yeah, it's really going to come down to Bijan or Jahmyr Gibbs at that one spot, which the Lions did add another running back. We'll get to him in a little bit here. But with Bijan, it has to feel very good for Tyler Allgeier to be gone because they truly split those goal line carries. I mean, 10 carries apiece they got inside the opponent's 5-yard line last year. And that's just far too low for Bijan, right? He was already a top-tier fantasy asset, but like the other top-tier guys, and Jonathan Taylor, he had 23 goal line carries. CMC, 20. Josh Jacobs, 20. Javonte Williams, 20. Derrick Henry, 27. And Gibbs only had 10 as well, so we can be super pumped that he doesn't have Montgomery anymore. But if you're going to be excited about Montgomery gone for Gibbs, you have to give that same consideration to Bijan now not having Allgeier. So if you're going to move up Gibbs, you got to move up Bijan, which he already was sitting at the 101, right? So I think he's going to stay my 101 over Gibbs. Now, Rico Dowdle goes to the Steelers. I think this was a pretty shocking one. I guess maybe it shouldn't have been. He's back with Mike McCarthy. But they let Kenneth Gainwell leave. He goes to the Buccaneers. We'll talk about how that will impact Bucky Irving here in a little bit. But with Rico Dowdle, now his main competition is Jaylen Warren. I do think this is going to be a split 50-50. Like, I don't think this is good for Warren or Dowdle. Dowdle, I mean, has had over 1,000 rushing yards in each of the last 2 years. Not a ton of touchdowns there, but I don't love this for fantasy for Dowdle. I'll say that.
Yeah, I want to also see how this develops. It seems like he's back with Chuba Hubbard all over again in a different situation, and they're going to split. But you think, Dowdle being a McCarthy guy, I mean, he was a very good backup for the Cowboys while McCarthy was there and had some good production. Watch out for him, right? I mean, John Warren should be more of the change of pace. It was kind of weird that Kenneth Gainwell and John Warren kind of had similar skill sets at times in the receiving game and what they could do. I think Gainwell was the better power back, but now it's clear that Dowdle is the guy that you would put in early downs and goal line situations for Pittsburgh. So we'll see this combination. You think right now, because of their different skill sets, it is a committee, but you can't be too excited about Dowdle. He's a guy that you would maybe draft in later rounds and see what happens, because then if something were to happen to Warren, I think Dowdle would have a lot of value.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there could have been better landing spots for him, but I mean, if he ever gets the Steelers backfield to himself, it could be great. And maybe Mike McCarthy will lean on him a bit more with the, experience with working with him. But yeah, it's definitely not great for that Steelers backfield in terms of fantasy production going to one guy. Now, the rest of these running back signings that we're going to get to, it's not necessarily we're excited about them for fantasy, but they could have an impact on other players. We'll get to that to close out today's show. We live in a world where we can stream anything, order food in minutes, and carry supercomputers in our pockets, and somehow buying tickets to a live game still feels complicated. Hidden fees, jumping prices, endless steps. There has to be a better way, and there is. That's why I always use the Game Time app. It gives fans the advantage and makes getting tickets simple. whether it's NFL games, concerts, comedy, whatever you're into. I just jumped onto the app last week to check out tickets for the upcoming Kelly Clarkson concert at the rodeo, at the Houston Rodeo. And it took me minutes to find an amazing deal to get my tickets secured and everything. It's so easy. The price you see includes all the fees, no surprises at checkout. You can see a panoramic view from every seat before you buy, and you can even spot zone deals where you pick the section and Game Time picks the seat for extra savings. 2 taps, and you have great seats locked in. Fast, easy, done. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. All right, we got news this morning that Isaiah Pacheco is going to the Lions. I think at first people may be like, oh no, Jahmyr Gibbs. Maybe some people have that reaction. But the more I think about it, I think this is actually great for Gibbs because there were a lot of bigger names out there. There's some veterans that could be released or traded, and they're not going to get them. They signed Pacheco. You need depth, guys. Like, you can't just go in with Gibbs and no one else behind him. So I think Pacheco's depth here in case anything happens to Gibbs, or obviously Pacheco will get some playing time. But I actually think this is really great news for Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, there's a little crossover. I know Pacheco can catch passes. We've seen it in the past in the Super Bowl. I mean, out of necessity. Yeah. That's not his strength. So he's not going to be in there interchanging. Like, it's not going to be 2 series for Gibbs, 1 series for Pacheco. That's not going to happen anymore. You'd have to be a little concerned that Pacheco might steal a few touchdowns, but you'll live with it. If it keeps Gibbs healthy, right, in other parts of the field, you're okay with it. And Pacheco has to prove that he can stay healthy. He's a guy that hasn't been able to be on the field, so you aren't going to invest a lot in him no matter who you were. The Chiefs had to move on here. So, again, it's a very big downgrade from David Montgomery sharing the backfield with Gibbs, but you need to have somebody, again. All these backfields, it's not going to be one guy, and then don't worry about handcuffs, don't worry about injuries, don't worry about committees. Somebody's going to be there, and you want that because you don't want your guy taking too big of a pounding. And look, if someone's going to get hurt and take the pounding, let it be Pacheco and not Jahmyr Gibbs. But they're different sub-runners. Pacheco's a hard runner inside. Jahmyr Gibbs, we know in the open field, can get it going. So I do like the idea. And again, I do like the fact that the Lions didn't go after a Rico Dowdle or one of these other guys, Gainwell, to be the second back. So the bigger the disparity, the better for the lead back.
Yeah, and the team that did go after Kenneth Gainwell to be their second back is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And with Bucky Irving, we're like, okay, he's going to lose Rachaad White. That will be huge for him. Except Kenneth Gainwell, I think, is the better overall running back than Rachaad White. I think he's a better rusher. And if he's not as good as Rachaad White as a pass catcher, which I think he is, he's right there with him. So I don't love this for Bucky Irving, who's already going pretty high at running back 14 when he has not proven to, ever finish at that high. Disappointing year this last year with injuries and bad offense. But it doesn't feel like this is a win for Bucky Irving anymore, losing Rachaad White now that they just signed Kenneth Gainwell.
Yeah, and if we had known that Walker was leaving Seattle, we'd say, hey, Seattle's a great spot here. Now, Rachaad White is in play. Potentially, they talked about it in Seattle. Would it be an option there? You could reunite with Liam Cohn and kind of replace Etienne with Bashal Tutin. So some things to watch for in the backfield that could still change here. Rachaad White, Najee Harris, and I would say those are your best options right now if you're looking for someone to have complementary fantasy impact, but all the best guys are off the board here, including David Montgomery in that trade. So, again, Gainwell, I don't think it's necessarily terrible for Bucky Irving. It's not great, but I'm also interested in Gainwell. I mean, they did get aggressive, so maybe they like him enough to see some key touches. So we'll have to see how that battle plays out between Irving and Gainwell, because I think that could be a lot closer as you think, Michelle, and that is something – you're right. We need to worry about a little bit. So we'll see that. But again, the gap between the backs. You don't see a lot of gap between Gainwell and Irving there. So that's going to worry you. Now, last move we'll have to talk about. I don't know if we should or need to, but J.K. Dobbins is returning to Denver. I guess it's something. 2-year deal. So you get the 2-year deal. So people.
You're $20 million as well.
Yeah. They're trying to keep him, I guess. They're not worried about his injuries, I guess. So he's in the mix. So there's nothing there. That was an opportunity we thought for a back to go in, like a Dowdle or somebody to have an impact. or even Alvin Kamara if he's released. But now I think you're going to have probably status quo in Denver. Not much else changing with the offensive line, this offensive scheme. You have a little bit of change with Davis Webb calling plays over Sean Payton. But pretty much I think you go into this year with the same drafting approach you would have with the Broncos backfield last year.
Yeah, they very, very clearly did not like what they saw at RJ Harvey as being a lead back in the second half of last season. Like, Harvey was a second-round pick. He got a chance to show his worth as a lead back in this offense without J.K. Dobbins there because he missed pretty much the entire second half of the season. And, he clearly didn't do enough. So they brought back J.K. Dobbins from weeks 1 through 10. When Dobbins was healthy, it was Dobbins as the lead back with 100 more carries than Harvey during that time. But also, he was averaging 11 points per game in half PPR. RJ Harvey was at 8.7. So we are already struggling to get on board with RJ Harvey, drafting him next year. He will clearly be the receiving back. But if Dobbins is going to get, the majority of the rushing attempts and the goal line attempts, it's going to be hard to trust drafting Harvey and starting him in any given week. That will be it for today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football. Make sure you subscribe and follow us so you get all the latest episodes. On our next one, we'll be talking about the receiver signings, the quarterback signings, and getting to the rest of this free agency madness. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Fantasy Football ad-free, plus members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month. Head to lockedonfantasyfootball.supercast.com to join the club. We'll talk to you later. Bye, y'all.